There's a type of pain nobody prepares you for. Not betrayal from enemies, not loss from accidents, but betrayal that comes disguised as gratitude. The kind that begins with, "thank you," and ends with silence. On this channel, we don't just tell stories, we examine them. Because sometimes the real damage isn't financial, it's psychological. This is the story of a man who thought he was helping someone survive. But what he didn't realize was that he was slowly being trained. Daniel was not extraordinary, and that's what makes this story dangerous. Because he was like many of you watching, hardworking, responsible, quietly ambitious. But underneath all of that, he had one defining trait. He wanted to be needed. Now, that sounds harmless, but psychologically, it's powerful. When someone needs you, you feel important, valuable, relevant. Daniel didn't just like helping people, he liked the feeling of being the solution. And that is where manipulation often begins. When Daniel saw the man sitting by the roadside, his brain didn't just process what he saw, it filled in missing details. Tired eyes, he must be suffering. Worn clothes, he must be honest. Soft voice, he must be harmless. This is called emotional projection. We assume someone's character based on limited signals. Then the sentence came, "My children haven't eaten." That was not random, that was strategic. Children trigger protection instincts. It bypasses logic and activates emotion. And Daniel responded exactly how a compassionate person would. He gave. And when he gave, something subtle happened. The power dynamic shifted. 2 days later, the call came. Notice this carefully. The man didn't demand. He thanked. Gratitude builds trust. Trust lowers defense. Defense lowered. Access increases. This is how psychological dependency forms. It doesn't begin with exploitation. It begins with appreciation. Daniel felt respected, valued, trusted, and that feeling can be addictive. Over time, the help increased, but Daniel didn't notice the shift, because helping had now become part of who he believed he was. He wasn't just Daniel anymore. He was the one who shows up, the reliable one, the strong one. And once helping becomes your identity, saying no feels like betrayal not of them, but of yourself. This is why some people struggle to set boundaries. Not because they're weak, but because they don't know who they are without being needed. Let's break something down. The man never asked for huge amounts at once. He asked for small, urgent amounts. Small enough to feel manageable, but frequent enough to accumulate damage. This is called incremental dependency. Each request seems reasonable, but collectively, it drains you. And Daniel told himself the same lie many good people tell themselves. It's just temporary. Temporary is the most dangerous word in exploitation, because temporary never feels threatening. There were signs. There are always signs. Inconsistent stories. Urgency without progress. Gratitude without change. But Daniel ignored them. Why? Because admitting the truth would force him to confront something uncomfortable, that maybe he wasn't helping. He was being used. And that realization hurts more than losing money. It attacks your self-image. It says, you weren't wise. You misjudged. You were manipulated. And the ego resists that. So Daniel chose belief over evidence. Until life forced clarity. The real test of any relationship is reversal. When the helper becomes the one in need. When Daniel's salary was delayed, he didn't panic immediately, because somewhere in his mind he believed, I've invested into someone else's life. Surely, support would return. This belief is rooted in something called reciprocal expectation. When we give consistently, we subconsciously expect balance. But exploitation ignores balance. When Daniel called and heard silence, his nervous system reacted before his thoughts did. Heart rate slightly elevated, jaw tightened, confusion, then doubt, then reality. Silence is communication. Not responding is a decision. Being seen but ignored is clarity. In that moment when Daniel saw the seen notification without reply, that was the psychological snap. Because now there was no excuse left, no misunderstanding, no maybe he's busy, just truth. And truth without comfort feels brutal. Seeing him healthy didn't hurt, seeing him walk away did. Because walking away says, You were useful, not valuable. There's a difference. Useful is temporary. Valuable is respected. Daniel realized he had been useful, and when usefulness expired, so did the connection. That realization rewires a person. The bigger psychological truth is that kindness without boundaries creates imbalance. And imbalance attracts opportunists. Not always evil people, sometimes just undisciplined ones. People who lack structure, people who live from crisis to crisis, people who survive through emotional persuasion. And if you are naturally stable, you become their support system until you collapse. So what did Daniel learn? He didn't stop being kind. He stopped being accessible without evaluation. He started asking questions. He observed patterns. He stopped responding urgency immediately. He allowed time to reveal intention. And something interesting happened. People who were genuine stayed. People who were opportunistic disappeared. Boundaries don't push away healthy people. They filter unhealthy ones. Now, me ask you something. Have you ever helped someone who slowly stopped respecting you? Have you ever ignored red flags because you wanted to believe the best? Have you ever felt guilty for wanting to protect yourself? If yes, you understand, Daniel. And if you don't learn this lesson early, life will teach it to you repeatedly. Through friends, through partners, through family, through strangers. Until you stop confusing kindness with unlimited access. You can be generous, but you must also be discerning. You can care deeply, but you must protect your resources. Because the world does not reward burnout. And self-sacrifice without wisdom is not noble. It is dangerous. Daniel didn't lose everything that day. He lost an illusion. And sometimes, losing an illusion is the beginning of maturity. Wisdom protects kindness. If this story made you reflect, share it with someone who gives too much. Like and subscribe for more.